By midnight, the shrimp towers are gone. The pastry platters have vanished. The bacon trays sit empty. But they didn't all end up in stomachs. Behind the buffet's glittering display, there's a second story, one of heat, noise, and the faint tang of something sour in the air. Down narrow crew corridors, doors swing open to reveal a world most passengers never see. Here, leftover feasts are counted, sorted, burned, or quietly reborn as tomorrow's specials. Some rules are strict, others flexible. And what happens in this hidden world might change the way you see cruise buffets forever. 1. The second life of your dinner. That golden tray of roasted potatoes you saw at breakfast? Tomorrow, it might reappear as hash. The dinner rolls you passed on tonight? Croutons by noon. Cruise kitchens run like clockwork, and waste costs money, sometimes thousands per voyage. If a dish is untouched, held at safe temperatures, and never grazed by passengers, chefs give it a second life. Carlos, a galley supervisor, calls it smart cooking. Bread becomes breadcrumbs. Unserved meat gets carved into stews. It's all above board under maritime health codes, and perfectly safe. But it's still a jolt to think the lasagna on your plate once lounged on a buffet you walked past yesterday. And that's the reality. On a ship, efficiency trumps sentimentality. Not everything survives the second chance test though, which leads to the other fate for buffet leftovers. 2. Waste under watch. On a cruise ship, even your half-eaten salad is valuable. If not for reuse, then for the data it holds. Buffets are monitored closely. Cameras, waste logs, even scales in the galley track exactly how much gets tossed. Chefs study which dishes vanish fastest and which are scraped straight into bins. Lena, a pastry chef, once pulled her lemon tart from the menu mid-cruise after seeing 40% of slices go unfinished. That information feeds into the next sailing's orders, menus, and budgets. Waste isn't just an environmental concern. It's a spreadsheet entry, a KPI. So when you leave that plate of lasagna half full, know this: someone in the galley is logging it, and if your leftovers aren't destined for reinvention, they might be heading somewhere hotter. 3. Fire in the belly. Once food hits your plate, it's done. Contamination rules are absolute. Anything touched by a passenger is sent to the ship's incinerators, steel chambers running at over 11800 GF. Dimitri, an engine room technician, describes the smell as like a bakery on fire. It's expensive, but dumping food overboard is illegal. Maritime law is clear: burn it, store it, or face massive fines. The ash is later offloaded in port or, under strict rules, discharged at sea miles from shore. The process is loud, and while it's the end of the road for plate scraps, not all waste gets destroyed. Some just never leaves the ship's kitchen. 4. Why it's not donated. Standing at the buffet, you might think, why can't they give this to people in port? The answer is red tape. Layers of it. Health regulations in multiple countries forbid serving any food that's been exposed to passengers. Even untouched platters fall into legal gray zones. Marisol, who worked galley cleanup in the Caribbean, remembers tossing entire trays of untouched cakes in Nassau because they'd been on display too long. Rules change from one port to the next. What's fine in Mexico could mean fines in the Bahamas. Sealed packaged food is sometimes donated, but that's rare. It's not about stinginess. It's about avoiding lawsuits, illness, and fines, which means a lot of perfectly edible food ends up here on the ship, waiting for its next roll, or its end. 5. Behind the crew mess doors. Think the crew feasts on buffet leftovers? Not quite. Officers might get passenger-quality meals, but most crew eat in separate mess halls with their own menus. Finished buffet dishes are almost never sent down. Health codes forbid it once food's been on display. Instead, leftover ingredients, vegetables, rice, meats, may get repurposed before they ever hit the buffet line. But the food in the crew mess is built for speed and efficiency, not show. Irfan, a cabin steward, laughs when guests ask if he eats lobster tail every night. "My dinner is curry and rice," he says. And no, crew don't get the creme brulee either. For many, the buffet is just as much a mystery as it is for passengers. But for the galley team, it's a puzzle they have to solve meal after meal. 6. Rules you'll never see posted. Passengers picture crew handing untouched food straight to locals at the next port. The reality? Maritime law and port authority rules make that almost impossible. Once a dish has crossed a border or spent hours under buffet lights, it's often classified as unsafe, even if it's sealed. Andre, a former pastry chef, recalls tossing trays of untouched mousse because the desserts had been on display past their time limit. Even the cruise line's private island wouldn't take them without pre-clearance. So while passengers grumble watching perfect croissants hit the bin, the truth is in the paperwork. Every port, every country, every rule is different, and usually stricter than you'd think, which leaves only two choices: destroy it or keep it on board for another fate. 7. The sniff and scan. Before a tray disappears into the waste chute, it goes through a quiet ritual in the galley. Sight, smell, and temperature check. If it passes, still cold enough or hot enough, it might be repurposed for crew meals or folded into tomorrow's casseroles and soups. Lila, a buffet manager, swears she can tell how long a pastry has been sitting just by its aroma. "Your nose doesn't lie," she says. But one slip in judgment could unleash norovirus on the ship, so the margin for error is zero. It's a strange balance, saving food without risking an outbreak. 8. Waste chutes. Behind the scenes of your polished buffet lies a massive steel machine that sounds like something out of a horror film. The food waste chute. Every ship has one. A long, sealed system that transports discarded food scraps directly into giant grinders or pulpers. Noisy, steamy, and faintly sour-smelling, this system churns non-stop after mealtimes. Food that's not salvageable is tossed here, turned into slurry, and either incinerated or discharged into the ocean under strict marine guidelines, and only when miles offshore. One cruise galley worker described it as a buffet graveyard, where untouched lobster tails and forgotten muffins go to die. It's efficient but eerie. Most passengers never see it. They just notice the plate disappears from their table. But behind every cleared tray is a chain reaction involving waste sorting, temperature checks, and strict timelines. And it all funnels into the chute, the final stop before oblivion. 9. Off-the-record leftovers. Sometimes food gets quietly redistributed among crew. A fresh tray of dinner rolls that never hit the buffet line, or a pan of lasagna untouched in the galley. These are fair game if they're still within safe time limits. Raj, a line cook, admits, "We didn't waste, we just relocated." On long voyages, variety becomes gold, and a leftover steak sandwich can be a small luxury. It's not about stealing, it's about morale. Still, this practice stays in the shadows, and while a few crew enjoy the perks, what really determines a dish's fate is much bigger than an after-hours snack. 10. You're the deciding factor. Every untouched plate, every half-eaten roll, every ladle of soup left behind, it all adds up. One cruise director estimates the average guest wastes nearly a pound of food per day. Multiply that by 4,000 passengers, and you've got literal tons per voyage. Aaron, who works in menu planning, says passenger habits shape everything. If we see people wasting a dish over and over, it's gone next cruise. So that extra scoop just to try it? It's not just waste, it's data. And those numbers ripple through menus, budgets, and supply orders, which is why the push to cut waste isn't just about the environment. It's about rethinking how the buffet works in the first place. 11. Compost at sea. Some newer cruise ships are trading incinerators for composters, giant dehydrating machines that turn leftovers into dry, soil-like material. This closed-loop approach means yesterday's buffet scraps could become fertilizer for a cruise line's private island, or even be offloaded at eco-conscious ports. Gareth, an executive chef, says it's a guest pleaser. People love hearing their croissant will help grow palm trees. But it's not effortless. Composting takes space, constant sorting, and discipline from both crew and passengers to keep plastics and napkins out. Done right, it's a win for sustainability, but it only works on newer ships with the tech built in. Most vessels still rely on traditional disposal. Still, every composting success is proof the industry can shift. And when food waste feeds coconut trees instead of fires an incinerator, the story of a leftover changes from ending to beginning. 12. Soup sleight of hand. Ever notice buffet soups change flavor daily, yet feel oddly familiar? That's no accident. Cruise kitchens are masters at turning yesterday's untouched ingredients into today's chowder. Leftover roast chicken might become wild rice soup. Stir-fry vegetables, perfect for minestrone. Hannah, a galley chef, calls it cruise stew. Always different, always improvised. It's efficient, waste-reducing, and completely safe if stored properly and reused within tight time limits. And it's not just a budget move, it's a flavor strategy. Many of the ship's most popular soups are born from this creative repurposing. You might be spooning up a bisque that whispers of last night's lobster tail, and never know. At sea, good soup isn't just comfort food. It's proof that leftovers can have a second, more delicious life. But for every clever save, there's an equally grim side to the end of buffet cleanup. 13. The smell that stays. When the buffet closes, the glamour vanishes, and the smell begins. Below deck, bins fill with hours-old seafood scraps, melted desserts, and half-eaten pasta, all mixing into a pungent, steamy haze. Crew wear gloves, aprons, and sometimes masks as they sort and seal the waste. Layla, a cleaner, says the odor lingers no matter how much you scrub. It's the smell of everything mixed together. You never forget it. Some ships chill their waste rooms to slow bacteria and stop the stench from spreading. Others process food fast to keep the air breathable. Guests never see it, though occasionally a faint whiff drifts near crew areas. It's the unseen cost of the all-you-can-eat promise. Every plate has an afterlife, and it's not always pretty. And while food smells fade, another type of waste flows constantly, unnoticed. 14. Liquid losses. Buffet waste isn't just about food, it's gallons of untouched drinks. Juice machines refilled hourly, pitchers of iced tea tossed when ice melts, coffee poured and abandoned after one sip. Marco, a beverage manager, estimates hundreds of gallons are dumped on long sailings. Self-serve stations make it worse. Guests fill large glasses just to try and leave them half full. Unlike solid food, open beverages can't be stored for crew or reused. It's waste you rarely see, yet it runs almost non-stop in the background. And it's why some cruise lines are quietly reducing self-serve drink stations or switching to smaller cups. Because while one glass of orange juice might seem harmless, multiplied across thousands of passengers, it's a silent tide of loss pouring down the drain. 15. The final story of your leftovers. So what really happens to the leftovers? The short answer, a little of everything. Some is reborn into soups or crew meals. Some is composted. Some becomes ash in an incinerator. Every ship, every itinerary, every day has its own mix. Adrian, a food waste officer, puts it simply, we track everything. What's gone, what's wasted, what we can save. It's never random. In the cruise world, waste is cost, risk, and reputation all rolled into one. Your plate is the starting point of that story. Take less, go back for seconds only if you're still hungry, and you'll change the ending. Because in the hidden life of leftovers, even small choices ripple across the ship, from galley to garbage, and sometimes to a coconut tree on a faraway island. Cruise buffets feel unlimited, but behind every untouched plate is a story of waste, cost, and complicated cleanup. Now you know what really happens when food goes uneaten. Want to cruise smarter? Start with your plate. Because the choices you make at the buffet don't just affect your meal, they ripple across the entire ship.